Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Spiritual Grind. We hope you enjoy it, and don't forget to follow, hit the little bell for your notifications when the podcast is posted, and follow, and share with your friends. We hope you enjoy it. Leave a comment if there's any topics that you want us to speak about.
Like, follow, share.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jenny. Good morning, Dr. Jenny.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I am absolutely spectacularly stupendous.
Spectacularly, I could even say that word. Spectacularly stupendous. My S-hole is going off today.
Oh, no. Inflammation of the S-hole.
Yep, the S-hole is a little crazy today.
Great.
Thank God for editing.
Thank God for our editor. Bless her little heart.
Well, we've been embarking on some new endeavors, doing some things that are fun.
Indeed. We have.
Yeah, it's good.
We are following our new and latest enjoyment.
Enjoyment and adventure.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
It'll be lots of fun. Pay attention, stay tuned. You'll know really, really soon.
Yeah.
We got some stuff coming out that we'll plug on here and let y'all know about it when it's ready.
Right.
But with that comes my topic today.
Do tell.
How do I want to word this? Oh my God, excitement. Really.
Okay.
I almost can't contain myself.
You need a bigger container.
Yeah, I think so. I got to let my excitement container get bigger. But no, my topic today is based around that, is about, finding your lighthearted fun.
Yeah.
Sure. And how good it feels to feel like you're accomplishing something new.
Right.
And allowing those doors to open and the creativeness that comes behind it. And it is very much fun.
Yeah. So I think that is a beautiful topic, because what it is, the intention is to, I think, show people how to identify a new enjoyment,
Yes.
how to conquer any beliefs that come up around it, and continue to move forward one step at a time.
Yeah.
Because I think what we're going to divulge in this conversation is our different perspectives on what the journey has looked like.
Yeah,
this far for each of us. Because I've had some monkey mind stuff pop up.
Oh, I've had a lot of it pop up.
And rightfully so. Because it's not only enjoyable, but it is, for me, helping me kind of clean out my house.
Yeah.
And I don't mean my actual house. I mean my temple, my mind, body, soul.
What brings it to me, it's kind of bringing me back to my childhood, because, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit openly.
Yeah.
Ever since I was a kid, my grandma, grandpa, my parents, all of my friends used to tell me I could sell ice to Eskimos. And I've been a salesman pretty much all of my life.
I tell you that all the time, even now.
in the part about it, I think that's been fun is I am really good at sales.
You are.
And it doesn't matter what. It doesn't matter if it's retail, if it's food, if it's real estate, apartments, whatever. Commercial real estate, residential real estate, apartments, food. I mean, I've been in all aspects of those things all in my life.
Right.
And every time I've been very successful at it.
Yeah.
And for example, I just broke the 450th apartment that I sell for the company I currently work for.
Yeah.
Which is a value of $138 million in business value.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is. It's a ton. It's a lot of value. And it's not just in sales, because it's...
the unfortunate thing is that
Well, we're not bringing up negatives. Um, no, your employers never recognize it. They don't recognize that stuff.
This is just part of monkey mind for me on your individual journey is I look at that and I say, you know, the despairing part of it is that, you know, how much of that did you get to put in your pocket?
Oh yeah, I know.
Right.
That's where I mean, don't get me wrong. We make phenomenal good money off of it, but it could be a lot better. It could be a lot better. But I don't want to bring that into focus. What I want to bring into focus is the monkey mind behind it, because everybody always asks me what I do.
Yeah.
And so I started really looking into it for the last few weeks, because we've got an intern that's working under me, and he is a sponge he wants information constantly.
Golly, he is, man. He is.
And so
SpongeBob SquarePants.
it made me think through my process and what I do.
Nice.
And I created this method because, and it worked already for him. I'm creating a book and a seminar online, and I gave him a draft of the book.
Yeah.
And the next day, he made his first sale.
Right. Yeah.
Using that method. He's like, yeah, I made it more. He's like, I focused on chapter 2.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. And he said the rest of it did itself.
That's right.
And that's exactly what the method is about.
Right.
And it's an exciting thing, because when you do it the way I do it, you're not selling.
No.
You're becoming what they need.
Right.
And it becomes an energetic exchange. But it's been so much fun kind of reliving this, because it brought back some old memories of when, I went to Grandpa one time and asked him for money. He gave me $2. I was like, Grandpa, I need $20 because my friends are going to the arcade. He said, here's $2. Go figure out how to turn that into 20.
Right. Very nice.
And
frustrating at the same time.
Yeah. I was like, what do you mean, Grandpa? He said, think. Use your head. Think about it. And I
like it.
I went down to the dollar store. I rode my bicycle 5 miles because everybody was going to the arcade that afternoon.
Right.
And I rode my bicycle 5 miles down to the little convenience store, and I bought one of those little plastic containers of Country Time lemonade. And then I went in the back of the convenience store right there, and I took all their styrofoam coffee cups out of their dispenser.
Oh my God.
With the lids. And I went back home. I took my grandpa's little folding table and a little couple pieces of paper, and I sold lemonade for $0.25 a cup.
And the place let you?
No, I sold it in the little place where we lived out there in the country. I went up to the roadside.
Okay.
Up to because I lived about a mile off the highway, and I went to the highway because right there was like a little pull-off section everybody pulled off on.
Yeah.
And I put my big lemonade container up on the top there because I used them in a bucket.
Oh my God.
I went out to the shed looking at what I could figure out.
Oh my God.
And by golly, I was figuring this out. And so I
don't listen if you work for the FDA or the health.
It was a brand new minnow bucket. It was never used. It was brand new. And it was like this. It wasn't the styrofoam one. Do you remember the old plastic ones that had the flip top on them?
Yeah.
I pulled the insert out of it, and I made the lemonade in that.
Okay.
And then I brought, man, it was a hard, because I was doing all this on my bicycle.
Oh, bless your baby heart.
And I think I was probably 10 or 11, maybe 12. I don't remember. And I go down there. I'm running back and forth. I got tables, and I get one of the ladles out of my mom's drawer.
Yeah.
And a big wooden spoon. And I would go to the neighbor's water hose. And there was a house like right on the corner. And I took my bucket over there and I filled it with water. I went over there. I poured the lemonade in it, and I stirred it right there at the spot.
Okay.
And I had this paper sign, but you couldn't even see it when I drove by. And I was sitting on my bicycle just waiting, and then people were driving by honking, and then the truck turned around. There was this like Chevy pickup that turned around and came back and pulled in. Well, it caused like 3 or 4 people to pull in, and I was like, listen, I just made the lemonade, and it's really good, but if you'd like to have some, it's not cold. I made it for you. And the guy was like, well, how much is it? I said, it's a quarter cup. He bought three cups full. Oh, you crying? I just was throwing it all out there to him. And it was such a fun experience, and I enjoyed it. And what made me so happy in the moment is I turned that $2 into almost 40 in like 3 hours. It was the most incredible moment I'd ever had in my life. Why are you crying?
I don't know.
Because it was a happy time for me.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds very sweet.
And so I was just wanted to go with my friends to the arcade, and nobody had any money. And my grandpa had money, I found out later, but I was just trying to figure out a way to go with my friends because my friend Brian invited me, and I wanted to go. And, because I was the low kid on the totem pole. I didn't have the money.
Right.
I didn't have the things that their parents provided them. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, I had a cool, fun life. I got to explore and do adventurous things that a lot of those guys didn't. Like, those guys never sold lemonade on the side of the highway.
Right. Out of a minnow bucket.
Out of a minnow bucket.
And stolen styrofoam.
I did. I stole the entire sleeve. and then about, I actually ran out. I had to
How
run.
did you navigate that?
I went back down to the store, and they'd already refilled it. And so I took more. But hey, I'll tell you what I did afterwards, though. And so 3 hours later, I've got like $40-something. I had all these people that were talking about it, and they were calling me cute and all those other things. But what it caused in me was understanding when you're authentic behind it.
Yeah.
And you have the energy of
purity.
Yeah. In it. It creates a feeling back and forth, an energetic connection, an energetic transformation.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that then. I realize that now.
Right.
Because here's the kicker to that is after I got done, I had $40-something. I think I had $42 or whatever, which was awesome. It was a lot of money.
Yeah. At that age, that's
that was in like,
money.
that was like, say, that would have been 1982, 83.
Right.
And because, I remember seeing advertisements and stuff about people selling lemonade for a nickel.
Golly gee, that's enough to buy a flux capacitor.
I know, right? And I went down afterwards after I took them in a bucket back and I emptied it. I still had lemonade left, by the way. I had mix left. Because that one container went a long ways. I mean, I got quite a few cups out of it.
Oh, my God.
And the crazy part about it is, I will tell you this, the first sale that I made, it was a guy, his wife, and his two probably junior, senior, and high school daughters.
Yeah.
And he gets out and he buys $5 worth.
Wow.
And
how much were you selling them for?
A quarter a cup.
A quarter, okay.
And I said, oh, okay. And I was counting in my head. I was like, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 equals $1. And so that means I need 16 cups. Oh, my God, that's my whole sleeve almost. I don't have enough cups. And so I start making these cups. And I get 4 cups made. And I put the lid on. I was like, here you go, sir. And I'm sitting there and he says, thank you. Don't worry about it. The rest of it's yours. I was like, oh, that's nice. And on the way back to the truck, they all 4 just threw the lemonade out. They dumped it out.
How'd that make you feel?
Well, it actually wasn't the way you would think. It kind of gave me a signal of, those guys didn't buy lemonade. They were rewarding me for being there.
Yeah.
And it's the same scenario that I do today.
Right.
When you put it all out there in a pure manner and your energy is clean.
Yeah.
And you understand their energetic process. Wow, what an epiphanal moment. So when I get done like 3 hours later and I've got like $42, I go down to the convenience store. And I went to the lady behind the counter, which I know her because my mom used to send me up there to get her Mountain Dew and cigarettes all the time.
Right.
I'd have to write up.
Because back in those days, we could buy cigarettes at like age 2.
Yeah, Mom would call the store. Hey, Jimmy's coming up to buy me cigarettes. And I just want to let you know. Okay, we'll send him back with him.
We'll have them ready. Same thing with me and my grandma.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
It is.
So I walk up to the lady behind the counter and I've kind of got my hands clenched in front of me and I'm looking down and I was like, Miss Sue, because her name was Sue. Everybody knew her. She was Blackie's wife. That was his nickname. He owned the convenience store and the bead store there.
Yeah.
I was like, Miss Sue, I have something to tell you. And she said, "Are you talking about the cups?" I said, "Yes, ma'am." And she said, "Those cups are about $1 a sleeve." And I said, "Okay, I don't mind paying you for them. I'm sorry, I won't do it again." And she said, "Next time, just come and ask me and I'll sell them to you by the sleeve. Because I heard what you were doing." And because it was before the convenience store. And people walked up and said, "Oh, this cute little boy's down there selling lemonade." And she said, "Yeah, I know. He's told my cups to do it." I said, "Miss Sue, if I give you the money for the 2 sleeves, would you forgive me?" She said, "Yes, but you have to sweep the floor too."
Oh.
And so she gave me a broom. I paid her the $2 and I earned it off. And actually, she ended up giving me a job at the feed store, loading feed.
Oh, cool.
Out of that lemonade stand. And so I got to come up every Saturday. I mean, I was only 11.
Right.
She couldn't legally hire me.
Right.
But she would come and I would sweep up after the trucks came in and unloaded the feed. That was like, there was cattle corn and horse grain everywhere.
Right.
And she would pay me $20 every Saturday to sweep the entire warehouse.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was awesome, because you know what else I did?
What?
I took that $20 and I bought about $5 worth of gum every week. And then at school,
Oh my God.
I would go to school and I would sell that gum for $0.25 a piece. By the Christmas,
and the entrepreneur is born.
Well, it was crazy because I had this. It was kind of like you see on TV. The guy walk up with the trench coat on. He opens up the trench coat and he's got all these watches hanging. "I got what you need." It was kind of like that, but I did it in my locker, and I had built cardboard displays for my gum.
Oh my gosh!
And I stacked it. I put a milk crate in there, or not a milk crate. It was a. When you remember the old plastic pencil boxes that you could buy the pencils out of for 10 cents?
Yeah.
It was one of those, and I'd put a cardboard top on top of it, and I would open my locker in between classes, and they all knew after a couple days where to go get gum.
How funny.
And it turned into quite a lucrative little thing. By Christmas, I had like $2,000 saved.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I started in the beginning of the school year. By Christmas, I had turned all this money into like $2,000.
Good grief.
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. But here is the really cool part about all of it for me is, first of all, because of my energy exchange with that first family, they told the person at the feed store, and this is just an example. The feed store gave me a job. I took the money from the feed store and I bought product and sold it, and it turned into quite a little income for me for my age. I was like 10 or 11. And when I got done with it all at the end of the school year, I had saved up enough money to buy a motorcycle.
Dun, dun, dun.
And had a little extra for the summer and buy gas and stuff, because gas back then I could buy for like 71 cents or 72 cents a gallon for the motorcycle. So I could fill my entire motorcycle for $1. It was kind of fun.
Wow.
But the coolest part about it is that the way everything linked together.
Yeah.
And that's what energy does.
Right.
And it was very much a fun time for me in expansion. And like this book talks about the energy of sales and how you sell in a way that makes people talk and come back to you.
Right.
Because I started doing the lemonade stand on Sundays. And after church, I'd have people everywhere wanting me to give lemonade to the point where I hired my friend Billy. He would come and help me scoop them up and hand them out. And I paid him $5 every Sunday to do that with me.
Did you stay with the minnow bucket or did you upgrade your equipment?
No, I used the minnow bucket.
Oh my gosh. Did you go to Miss Sandra and buy your sleeves of cups?
Miss Sue, yeah.
Miss Sue.
Yeah, Miss Sue. Yeah, I went to Miss Sue when I left Saturday, I would buy my cups for the Sunday. After I swept her floor.
How precious.
And man, it was hard work. That was a big warehouse for $20. That was huge.
Especially at 10 or 11 years old.
And it was funny because the first time I did it, she walked through there. "Well, let's check out your work, young man." And we were walking through she's like, "Oh, you missed some here, you missed some there." But I get it, I understand. You'll get better at it. I just want you to pay attention to the corners, okay? And here you go, young man. Here's your $20, and I left. And it was the coolest thing, really. It really built that. I realized back then that things were happening that I couldn't understand.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what they were. And it was
I think that happens in childhood a lot more than the parents or the grown-ups realize.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think the difference between the children and the adults is that there's a lot of things that happen in childhood that we don't necessarily understand as children.
Or we don't talk about.
But we're okay with not needing to fully understand it to continue to just follow the steps.
Yeah. I didn't ever tell my parents what I was doing.
Changes in adulthood.
Yeah.
And if we could get back to that premise and I think that's a beautiful segue into this quick conversation I want to have.
Yeah.
Getting back to that premise of following the footsteps of the guidance,
Yep.
and of the joy. You were having fun in all of that.
I wasn't at first. I was very nervous. I was so scared to be doing
that
it.
Hold you back.
I didn't.
You just had your eye on the prize. You were determined.
Yep.
And that's what motivated you or inspired you to move past the fear of the unknown or the need to figure it out specifically, step by step, what it's all going to look like before you take action.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the part I wanted to talk about, because then we go into adulthood and we have to have this formal action plan before we can even take action.
Yeah.
I sometimes myself even get jammed up with that. Like I have to have this whole to-do list, and I still even now make to-do lists and check off sheets and all that nonsense instead of just following the next desired step of it. And as kids, even though it's unknown and it's uncomfortable, having the eye on the prize, which was arcade games or a new bike or whatever, that is the natural, like you said, unadulterated version of just following your joy without being fearful of the unknown, without having to have a fully devised plan, just going one step at a time. What does it look like?
I wouldn't tell my grandpa afterward.
And
he said something I didn't even think about. He was like, what would you have done if somebody wanted to buy one
what?
One cup for a quarter? I'm like, and they gave you $1. I'm like, oh, I didn't even think about that.
Oh, meaning like
how would I get change? Yeah. So, but it brought, anyway, so my grandpa knew what was going on the whole time. I told him about it. I never told my parents. Yeah. And every Friday after
I think underneath you knew maybe why. And I mean, I feel like you knew.
Yeah.
They just weren't there yet.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Intuitively.
No, I agree. And I remember,
but where did they think you were going? And had they not heard it through the grapevine?
Back then, parents didn't want you in the house. They told you to go outside and play.
You're completely right. Absolutely. I mean,
they didn't expect me home till dark.
That's right. We went via foot. If we had bikes, we went on bikes.
Yep. I rode my bicycle everywhere.
And those of us that didn't have bikes, we were the ones running behind telling the people on the bike, wait up for me, until we could get a bike.
Yeah. There's right. One thing in all of it I would have changed. I never told my parents about it. And like on Friday, we would go to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Every Friday night, it was like a family thing. And, back then, everybody did that.
Right.
The grocery stores were packed on Friday night. And I would go to the Hot Wheels, and I would buy a Hot Wheels car. And my dad and mom used to think I stole them.
Oh.
And so it became, I had to hide it. And so I would go buy it. I would take the receipt in my back pocket. I'd take the car out of the package, and I'd put the car in my pocket and throw the package away and then go back in. Because they'd always say, go do something. Or or my dad would go to the magazine rack while my mom was shopping, and my brother would help Mom, I would go to tell Mom I'm going with Dad. I tell Dad I'm going to go with Mom, and I would go do my stuff.
Buying your gum and your Hot Wheels.
Yep.
Getting your inventory ready.
Getting my inventory ready. I did that every Friday, man. It was crazy. And it got to where Miss Sue would sell me, the double mint gum, or not double mint, but the double bubble.
Yeah.
She would sell me the whole box.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So she got to where she would just order in. Because I would go up every week and I'd just pretty much empty her box, and she got tired of me emptying her box.
Right. So she would order you your own supply.
Yeah, about 3 or 4 weeks into it, she would ask me, "What are you doing with all this gum?"
And you told her?
Yeah, I told her.
And what'd she say?
She said, "Well, aren't you a smart little kid? Aren't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so I got to where I would just buy I could buy the whole box of gum. I want to say it was 500 or 250 pieces.
Yeah.
And I could buy it for like $4.
Oh.
And I sold them for $0.25 a piece. It was like $4.85 or $5. It was less than $5. I remember giving her $5, and she would give me like 15 cents back, I think.
Right.
But it was
And you were doing math along the way.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, look at all the different components of your education that you were bringing into play.
And then come along this. I had this little girl named Gail Busby.
Oh.
She would come buy gum every day. She wasn't supposed to be chewing gum because she had on braces.
Oh.
And her dad would give her $1 every day for lunch. And she would come to me and she'd buy a piece of gum, but then she wouldn't have enough money to eat. And then she got smart.
Oh my Lord.
She'd come to me on one day and she said, "Jimmy, if I buy $1 worth, can I get 5 for $1?
Oh.
Because then I can have a piece every day."
Sub-entrepreneur. And then she would go sell it so she could have lunch.
No. She would, on Mondays, she would pack herself a sandwich that her parents didn't know about.
Okay.
Then she would take her $1 in lunch money and buy 5 pieces of gum, so she'd have 1 piece every day for the week.
Okay.
And so many of the kids started doing that.
Uh-oh.
And so I did it 25 cents a piece or 5 for $1.
Okay.
And so I realized that my sales like tripled.
Okay. Structuring different
And I would tell
sales
them,
tactics.
I was like, y'all should do what Gail does when they walk up. If y'all want gum, y'all are going to come to me tomorrow, want a piece of gum. Then you're not going to have the money to eat. And you're going to combine your previous day with this day so you can eat 1 or 2 days a week when you could do it this way.
I see.
And I told them, and it became just like this deal. And I was slinging gum out of my locker all the time. It was really funny. And I mean, it was nuts. I would literally run to my locker after the bell, and I would stand there, open the door, and I had a sign on it that said, "If the locker's open, you can come and get it." Basically.
Yeah.
And it was crazy.
What'd you make it the sign out of?
Just markers,
cardboard or
markers and a piece of paper. Yeah.
Oh my God, how cute!
And I stuck it up there with gum, actually.
Oh my heavens!
It was a very fun experience. It was, thinking back on it, I remember my principal. We had when they used to do the what do you call those, where they would all get the assembly.
Right.
They would all assemble like once a quarter. He had some kind of assembly.
Yeah. And in elementary, we were so excited to go to assembly because it got us out of class.
And got to get into the gym.
And we got to get into the gym. It was amazingly like a socialization gathering for us.
Well, Mr. Boffman, because I carried this through middle school, high school.
Oh, you did?
I did, yeah. It turned into quite a little lucrative business.
Wow.
Because I turned from gum to candy bars to...
Yeah.
And then we got a little older, I would sell beer.
Oh, my God.
But...
No. We're gonna stop there. Don't ruin the purity of it.
Well, I'm just Mr. Boffman made an announcement, and he said at the assembly, I want to say it was like 5th or 6th grade. He's like, "We've had a sudden outbreak of chewing gum in class.
Uh-oh.
And so therefore, going forward, anybody caught chewing gum in class will get spankings. We'll get 2 swats." In the hallway.
No.
I'll never forget.
Your business.
Randy Highfield didn't care. Daddy was loaded. He was like, "Sell me your business." He was challenging Mr. Boffman.
Business.
And I was like, Don't know about that one. And so, but anyway, so he bought like $5 worth of gum for me, and he went into science class chewing gum on purpose. He did not care that this guy was on the verge all the time.
Oh my goodness.
He wore very expensive parachute pants.
Ooh, and that hurts when you get a spanking.
He gets caught in science class.
Oh my God.
And Mr. Boffman pulls him into the principal's office and says, "Where'd you get the gum?"
Oh my God.
Guess what he did?
He outed you.
He told on me.
Shoot.
Excuse me, I need to speak to Mr. Jimmy. Send him to my office, please.
Oh my God.
So, as I'm walking to the door,
He outed his source?
he did. After trying to buy the business.
Little narc.
On my way to walk out the door, when the teacher said, "Oh, you need to go to the office," I hear this smack. Ooh, smack. Ooh. It was Randy getting swats in the hallway.
Dadgummit.
Because they would do that on purpose back then. They would put you out in the middle of the hallway, open all the class doors, and discipline somebody. You can't see it, but they would discipline them so everybody could hear it.
Yeah.
It was an intimidation thing.
Right.
And so I'm at the door, and I'm thinking, that's Randy. I know that voice. Because I don't know why they're calling me to the office at this time, right?
Right.
And as I'm walking down the hall, Mr. Boffman points at me, and he gives me that curled finger.
Oh, no.
And he told Randy to go to class. And I'm like, oh,
Right. Beep, beep, beep.
The principal walks me to my locker, and he says, "Open your locker."
Oh, my God. Did you have your stuff out?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
And I was like, okay. So I opened the door. He said, "Has it been you this whole time?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said,
Tell me your business.
He says, "I have to confiscate all this, right?"
Why?
I said, "Why?" And anyway, this whole story. This is when it gets outed to my parents and everything else. And so he confiscated everything. So I went to my grandpa and I told Grandpa about it. And Grandpa said, "He can't take that. That's yours. He can't take it." And so Grandpa went up there and got the stuff back. And the principal told him, "You need to tell your grandson to quit selling gum at school. It's against school policy." And he said, "Where? Show me the policy that says that. I am never going to stop somebody from being an entrepreneur. And if your school does not support that, then shame on you. That's the American dream." And this is when it all came out to because the principal called my parents, and of course my mom was like all over it.
Of course.
I was getting in trouble, and Grandpa stepped in. Mm-mm. Thank God. Thank you, Grandpa.
Well,
But
yeah, you weren't doing anything wrong.
I wasn't.
You can't keep the kid from chewing it or not chewing it or following the rule or not following the rule.
No, it was and he was right. It wasn't anywhere in the school policy.
Right.
And anyway, to make a long story short, it became the school started selling it. They started selling stuff in their little in their little school store.
Oh, competition.
No, they started offering it, and so the principal actually asked me if I would be interested in running it because he realized that he was wrong.
Why would I want to run your store and work for you when I've got my own business that's
Well, they had things I couldn't have, but
cut the
I did tell him no, I didn't want to do it because you wouldn't pay me what I'm worth. Pretty much, I was like, I make more money doing it on my own in the parking lot than I will in your store.
And what did he say?
He said, "Well, it's not a paid position at all; it's volunteer."
Absolutely.
Well, that makes it absolutely not. But anyway, so I actually quit selling at that time, and I started working at the feed store full time and selling feed.
I see.
It was a pretty good experience, but it all started with that one drive just to go to the arcade and make $20.
Yeah.
And it's crazy when you think back through it, the excitement and the feeling it gave me inside of I was accomplishing my own goals.
Right.
And I was doing this through a very big energetic exchange, and it created excitement. And lately I have found that excitement back.
Nice.
And it's pretty real.
Yeah. Very nice.
But anyway, I didn't mean to like bogart all of the podcast
No,
today.
I think it's a very, good conversation to have, because what it does is it reminds the adults, it reminds us when we go into adulthood, you know, when you're trying to find your passion or your joy or your purpose, whatever you call it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the spiritual world, there's always this comment of be childlike, find the inner child. And never a really good definition has come about or example. And I think that you took the opportunity to give that statement a very good, not only definition, but clear understanding of what it means
Yeah.
when we talk about finding that childlike person or perspective of you in your adulthood to find your excitement, your joy, that reigniting that flame.
Yeah.
Because as the child, like I said, like I already talked about, you didn't let the unknown stop you.
No.
Which, if you look back at children and you really look at them and watch them, they don't. They just, because they don't know how to let it stop them when they want something.
Yeah.
When they've got their eye on the prize, whether it be a new bike or a new baby doll or book or whatever the prize is, a toy, going somewhere, going to a friend's house, whatever.
Yeah.
They will do anything
To get there.
they
will accomplish their goal.
They will accomplish their goal. And they don't do
At least
it
they did
begrudgingly.
Yeah, right. No, I agree. Totally agree.
And that's the thing. Even if I can remember as a child, I would ask to go stay the night somewhere. And my parental person's technique was, okay, you can go, but you have to complete these chores. Da, 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 da.
Yeah. There was always chores.
Clean the house and, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I was so locked into the end goal, the chores became non-focal.
Yeah.
And what does that mean? It means I didn't sit around and complain and fuss about having to do extra house chores so that I could go on this slumber party, so to speak.
Yeah.
The goal, I kept my eye on the goal.
Yeah.
Getting to the slumber party and doing whatever it took. And so the doing the chores was just a background noise that had no meaning.
Yeah.
I gave it no meaning. It was just a means to an end. And instead, what happens now in adulthood, and I see it all the time, is that we tend to give the steps along the journey to the goal, to the prize, too much meaning and fuss and complain about that.
Agreed.
And so it's just a really good reminder. And then when you can do like you did and, work past the fear and of the unknown and just take it one step at a time. Like you didn't stop and construct a whole plan. You didn't even know what it was going to look like. You just figured it out as you went along.
Mm-hmm.
You just figured it out step by step.
Even the minute bucket.
You went and you found a product.
Right.
Check.
Yep.
You then went, and the next logical step was you knew you had to mix it with water.
Yeah.
You got to have a container to mix it in.
I went on that guy's property. He had no idea I was doing it.
I mean, we won't talk about the illegal or
There wasn't nothing illegal about what I did.
I mean, you took things that weren't yours, but we're not going to focus on that.
No.
You just figured out how to make the things happen, but you did it on a eat the elephant one bite at a time concept,
Yeah.
which this is a beautiful explanation of that.
I
The
agree.
next logical step was to find something to mix it in.
Yeah.
You didn't quabble with the 10 steps ahead of that.
Nope.
You just went and found the best fit for the next thing that was in need of being done.
Never once did it cross my mind. That's probably not a good idea to use them in a bucket.
No.
Never crossed my mind.
You just did it.
Yep. I just need something to hold my lemonade.
Follow the tiny little breadcrumb steps in it. A lot of times what I'll see is people will have this big, beautiful goal of bringing something to fruition. And I can tell you along my journey, I too am in the process of writing a book and want to put it into a seminar type concept.
Mm-hmm.
But I looked at the whole big thing of it and I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to get all this done? Because I, as an adult, am a list maker that I can check the little box off. And so I had to kind of say, okay, wait a minute. Like, just do the next fun thing within it. And so I had to kind of tether myself back or woe myself back on this whole thing. Because if you make a 10-page checklist of all the things that go into getting this big concept done, you can like steer yourself away from it. And I did. I was
in the sales word, that's called anchored bias.
I was like, oh my God, how
you
am
get
I
anchored on the steps instead of the goal.
This done.
Yeah.
But as a kid, we don't do that.
We don't. I agree.
We don't. And so it's a good opportunity to just remind people, you know what? When you have a goal in mind, a lofty goal, don't focus on the steps in between having the thought and the end accomplished place you want to be. Just go with the next best step and the next best step and follow where it takes you, because your higher self is guiding you along that path and that journey.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Because if you get jammed up with looking at the whole big picture, you will sometimes get the deer in the headlight kind of syndrome and stop.
Right.
And I'll be like, oh my God, this is too much. I can't do all this. Oh my God, overwhelmed. And then all of a sudden the energy changes.
Yeah.
And then you go into kind of shutdown. And then that project sits on the shelf collecting dust.
Yep.
And there
don't go anywhere.
Have it, and it doesn't go anywhere.
And the energy fizzles out.
Yeah, so I think it was a beautiful story.
It was. It was a good time in my life, and this new journey has really brought me back to that good feeling inside.
Yeah.
You know, that part of, because, I mean, don't get me wrong, we have a great life, and we do things that are wonderful.
From lemonade to legacy.
It's quite an eye-opening experience.
Of course.
Because I've been, like, going through the old thoughts, of, like, I'll give you another example that happened to me. When I was a manager for Hardee's.
Yeah.
There was a guy that came in every Saturday morning.
Right.
And he sat in the back corner of the dining room, and he would have a biscuit and gravy and a coffee and sit there all morning working. And I got curious after a couple of weeks of seeing him every weekend. I'm like, what do you do? What are you doing back here? You come in every Saturday, blah, 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 blah. And he said, well, I'm an insurance salesman. He sells insurance, and he works all week, Monday through Friday, and then on Saturday he sits down and writes all his policies. And he was doing it in the Hardee's. And then he went to reach over, and I noticed, man, he had a $high watch on. I mean, he had a Rolex on. And I asked him, I said, was that a Rolex? He said, yeah. And I said, in doing this, you're getting paid. There's no money here. There's nothing being exchanged. And he sold for Mutual of Omaha. He was the sales manager for the office in Oklahoma that was local. And he said, yeah, anybody can do it. I'm like, what? How do I do that? And so he said, well, I tell you what, when's your next day off? And I was always off on Sundays and Mondays. And so I said, I'm off Sunday and Monday. He said, here's my card. Come to my office on Monday, and I'll show you. And I started selling insurance on the weekends. He literally, it didn't cost me anything. He paid for my licensing.
Yeah.
And he kind of showed me his method of selling, and didn't work for me. For me, it was more about, it was always about that energy.
Right.
And so I started using where I worked as a full-time, as a platform. And
to sell them insurance.
Yeah.
Here's your burger. And by the way, why don't you pick up some insurance?
No, you know what I did? I took my little business cards that they gave me for free, the little table tents.
Yeah.
I would put them in the middle of it, because they were folded together. I would put them in the middle of it, And all it said on it, is your insurance good or not? Give me a call and I'll tell you. Basically, I don't remember the exact wording, something like that. Call me or call me for the newest insurance, blah, 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 something.
Right.
And my phone, when I went to work, when I did the first weekend, I went that Monday to the office because I was only selling on Sundays and Mondays. That was it.
Yeah.
Because I worked a full-time job. And my voicemail was full. Because I worked in a very busy Hardee's. It was like a $2 million a year restaurant.
Yeah.
And so there was thousands of people that went through there every day.
Right, right.
And I started getting all these calls. And I was like, oh, crap, I don't know what to do. I had to divide them off. Well, when you're in the insurance world, I would give some back to the guy, and he would go meet with them, and then we split commissions.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I just developed an insurance lead service. I never sold an insurance policy once.
I see. So you were getting the leads.
I got my insurance license. They were calling my voicemail, and I give them to
somebody
him.
else to actually follow through.
Right.
And then you got basically a commission or a percentage of the payoff.
That was right.
Wow, nicely done, sir.
And he told me, and I said, I'm going to start selling these at work full time. He's like, be careful because they might fire you over it. He said, what do you plan on doing? And I told him, he said, that won't work. Let me show you my energy, buddy.
Right.
And so you know what I would do when I'd be out mingling in the dining room, because that was part of every so often you're supposed to do a dining room walk.
Right.
I would, as I'm walking through, these guys, you see people pick up the card, and I pick it up, I'm gonna be like, hey, that guy comes in there all the time. It was just about energy, it was about the energy.
Right.
Like, I'm confident in it. They know I'm allowing it to happen because they all knew me. All my customers knew me.
Right.
They didn't realize it was me. And so it worked out quite well, but it was about the energetic exchange. It was following the next thing that felt good in it.
That's right.
And just following what your intuition tells you.
Yep, that's right. Not getting jumbled up with, oh my God, okay, once I do this step, what's the next one? What's the next one?
Yeah, because that monkey mind, you can kick your butt.
Yeah, just stop right there.
Because that's what was going on.
Do this for now.
Yeah.
Until it's time to do the next thing.
Like when I'm writing this book and stuff, and I'm thinking to myself, my monkey mind's always saying, ain't nobody gonna buy that.
Ain't nobody gonna buy
Ain't nobody got time for that. You know what I mean? And it keeps going through my mind. But as I got done, and I was on one of the servers, I don't want to talk about the server openly, but I was on one of the servers, and I asked it, to analyze this data. And they told me it was in the top 97%. I was like, or 92% of its genre.
Oh.
What?
Nice.
I wrote this? Me? Little old me? Little lemonade boy?
Is this thing on?
Hello. Is it me you're looking for?
Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me now.
Well, it's very eye-opening.
Yeah.
And it's very exciting to be where I am.
Very cool story.
It's very exciting to see where you are. Watch you do this too. Go through this steps. It's going to be fun. You'll pay attention.
I didn't go into a lot
tuned.
of detail, but I got a lot of irons in the fire as well.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. We have multiple books we're working on and many other things. But
different things.
Anyway, I feel good.
Yeah, I think that was great. That was awesome.
Good thing.
Just remember, follow that childlike
excitement.
Perspective.
Perspective.
And try it on.
You know what I want to do?
Play with Legos?
No, I want to put on, you remember those glasses that have little springy eyes?
Oh, yeah.
So when we tell people to do through everything through childlike eyes.
Yeah.
You can put them glasses on.
Right. I always liked the ones that were in the shape of the star.
Oh, yeah.
That had the different colors.
Yeah.
I always liked wearing those.
Yeah, the big stars.
And they had glitter on them.
Yeah, I know. I remember that.
Yeah, I always liked those. Yeah, that's the key takeaway real quick, just to recap briefly, is follow your childlike perspective.
Yep.
The next best step that feels right, focus on that and find the enjoyment out of that. Don't look at the whole big pie. Don't let yourself get tangled up in the overwhelmment of looking at the whole big structure.
Right.
Remind yourself of what the goal is when you do that, and then say to yourself, stop, and what is it? What's the next best thing I need to do right this minute?
Right.
and move in that direction and do
You know,
that.
for me, this is a bit of advice I would tell you. Even if you're fearful of it and the monkey mind's in the way, take the step to do something. Like for me on writing this book,
Yeah.
everything, my monkey mind's telling me, ain't no way going to buy nothing. It's not going to be good. Da, 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 da. And when I got done, I just went with my gut. I was, you know what? I'm just going to write it, and then that way it'll release energy.
Yeah.
And then I read it. I was like, holy crap, I wrote this.
Well, yeah. And then what that does is that anchors or redefines the monkey mind talk of you can't write a book. Nobody's going to buy it.
Right.
Because you write it and then you read it and you think, wow, I
actually wrote that.
I'm much better than I
realized
initially told myself I was.
Yep, I agree.
And
Your
that
stuff.
will then...
Tell your stuff. I told my stuff.
What that does is that re-energizes you. It gives you a new level of energy around the topic.
Yeah.
Which then adds to that fire or that desire to do the next thing. And it will just build momentum on itself. Because then you do the next task and you do it and it turns out better than you ever thought.
Right.
That then feels really good. And you just keep going in that frequency, raising the frequency, raising the vibration, raising the confidence.
Yeah.
Until that momentum gets bigger than the negative talk or monkey mind conversation.
It's quite enlightening.
It is. It's beautiful.
Hey.
Nicely done. Yep.
All righty. Hey, guys, we appreciate y'all listening. Don't forget to like, follow, share, and
ring that bell.
You all have one awesome of a day.
Love you.